I do want to acknowledge one of our elders in the room who's been doing the work in the community forever, as long as I've known her. I've known her kids, Mrs. Hubbard. Everything that she does is very important to us, like for sure. Put her on that cam. Everything that you do is appreciated. It never goes unnoticed. From Goat and Cyphers, from the time you used to be pulling Kelly to the side in Central. I mean, I watched you all the time, so I just want to let you know that we appreciate you in this space and continue to do the great work. Oh, okay, we can do it now.
You want to do it? It was up to you. So since you're doing it now, you might as well.
She done brought it up, didn't she?
I done brought it up.
So let's do it now.
Let's have her.
Come on up, let's have it. Hey, we can do it now. So, Ms. Hubbard, we wanted to get you a money tree. Pray that your money never stops flowing. You blessed.
What's up? Hey, everybody. I just want to say thank you to everybody, whether I know you or not. I am also the owner of McLean's Market on 30, right down the street from Paul's. I want to say that. We're working on developing things so we can make it a better store to service the community. It's been in our community over 50 years. It was my husband's.
Yes.
It's my husband's grandmother's store. So we just trying to keep it black and keep it right. And so we welcome any feedback that you guys have. That's it. Just thank you. Just thank you.
Let's give this up another round of applause. Kim, I know we went out the agenda, but it just happened that way. Like, it just happened that way. It just happened that way. But yeah, so I'm a part of the Central Cooperative, and that was one of the main things is that we wanted to get Mrs. Hubbard in here from McLean's. We didn't get anybody in from Paul's today, but we got Mrs. Hubbard in. She's always here and always supportive, so I appreciate that, and just wanted to reward you with that. So at this time, Morgan, you ready?
I think so. Kim?
Rick?
You doing something with that?
No.
Okay.
Is Rashawn
Yes.
in the house?
Rashawn, please.
Rashawn, please come to the front of the room and join me. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So I'm Morgan. I was here a few weeks ago with some of you, and it's really good to be back. Thank you, Walt, for having me back to have a deeper conversation around food access in this community. Ms. Rashawn is also going to join me, and yeah, we're going to share a little bit about some of the work that we do, and then we really, I think, I don't want to speak for you, but I think we want to have a conversation. We really want to have a dialogue. We want to share feedback, ask questions, and really figure out how we might do some of this work together.
So when we get to Q&A, my name is Wendy. How y'all doing? And I'll be reaching out, having y'all share the questions that you have so that they'll be able to answer them.
And I'll introduce myself. It's lots of familiar faces in this space, so it's like coming to like a family reunion. My name is Rashawn. I work with Cleveland Central Promise Neighborhood and Health Campus with St. Vincent, so I'm happy to be here.
You want to start? Want me to start? Okay, that was easy. Hi, everybody. My name is Morgan Taggart. I work with an organization called FAIR, Food Access Raises Everyone. Wendy is my colleague, and we do a lot of this work together. I'll share a little bit about kind of myself and how I got into this work and some of the work that we do at FAIR. I moved to Cleveland about 18 years ago from San Francisco, and one of the first communities I started working in was Central. And my goal, I was working with OSU Extension at the time, and my goal was to support community members who wanted to start community gardens in the Central neighborhood. And so I really got the chance to work closely with institutions, residents, organizations, and I think we started about 3 or 4 different community gardens in the neighborhood that actually ended up on your maps a few weeks ago. So these places are still around. One is at 35th and Cedar, another one at 61st and Quincy. So some of those sites, I had the pleasure of working with community residents in those neighborhoods to help those gardens get started. And that just kind of tells you, as many of you know, that food access in this community has been an issue for a long time. It's not something that's new. And so I spent the afternoon looking at all, I think we have, I maybe have not, 8 maps from you all from a few weeks ago, and I spent some time looking at all the things that you put on there, the comments that you made, and I wanted to kind of share some of the highlights for me that I think kind of help us set the stage for some of the work that we could do together in this community around access to healthy food. I think some of the things that stood out to me is something that, Walt, when you did your introduction a few weeks ago, around the kind of connections between redlining and the lack of investment in our communities, and the food access issue and how intertwined they are. On people's maps, they listed the vacant Dave's at Arbor Park Place, the vacant Jane Addams High School, the vacant, I feel like there was another one that I'm missing. Middle school. Yes, the middle school. St. Vincent's, right? Like, these are major institutions in our community that are now closed. And I think when we talk about redlining, we often think it's history. It is present. It is current, it is future. And so the other store that was on there was the one on Payne. Some folks have put that on the map too. I don't know if you all remember that one. There used to be a Dave's on Payne, which is now sitting vacant. So it's like we have these carcasses of life and institutions in our community that have gone dark and are really leaving holes. So that was one thing that kind of came up in all those great maps that you all made. I think the other thing that stood out to me, and when we talked a few weeks ago, we talked about how do we highlight the good things, the things that we can bring together, that we can expand, that we can support. 2 of the stores that had hearts by them were Paul's and McLean's. Giant hearts, this is where our resources should go, this is where our energy should go in supporting these stores because they've been here and they will continue to be here. I also want to call out Lakita. She's got an amazing story highlighting Paul's. Amazing story in the land. Maybe you've already shared it out, but it would be great if you all could check that out. It's a wonderful story about that store, the history of ownership, what they're trying to do in the community, and I think what the future could hold. So thank you for that story and shining a light on that. I think folks like Ms. Hubbard and Phil are really champions who've seen so much change, and they're still here, and they want to do more, and they need support. So that to me was one of the positive things that kind of came out of that mapping. I think the other thing that kind of for me personally is I get to work with resident leaders across the city of Cleveland. I am having the same conversation with residents in Collinwood that just lost their Dave's store in Euclid Beach. I've had conversations with residents in Buckeye when Giant Eagle left and Simon's moved in, and continue to have conversations with those folks. I had conversations in Clark Fulton where all they have is a very crappy Save-A-Lot store, and that's what they're left with. So to me, I keep thinking about what's the power of all of these communities working together. We are all kind of facing, I think, the same challenges, and so what could we do together as residents? Because we're all dealing with the same thing, and like you said, Walt, it's present and it's going to continue to happen. So that to me is a tremendous opportunity. I think the other thing that I learned when I was with you all a few weeks ago is something that I learned in working with the residents of Buckeye through Buckeye Heal, is that we shouldn't settle. I think a lot of times when our communities are losing things, right? We think, well, this person's here, we'll take this option, because that's the only option we have. And I guess I want to kind of plant a seed that I think you've started to create a vision for what you want to see here in this community, and I want you to aim for the biggest, the best, the highest quality, because people who live here deserve that. And I think we often have kind of a glass of water on the table and that glass is dirty, and we'll think, well, I'll drink it because it's the only water I have. And I really want to push us as a community, across the city, across the region, to really ask for what we really want. We deserve that. So I guess kind of some of my takeaways in being here with you tonight is I would love to kind of dive into this deeper with you all. I'm excited to hear what's happening with the health campus and how that might look. But I also think that there's an opportunity for us to take action now while the health campus is in development. You just put an invitation out on the floor, right, Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Help us, right? Let's do that.
We need the community's help. I know it's a lot of things that can change, so we want feedback from you guys. And we're trying to do the best that we can. We've been working with the council person and, just some other things. So we just need y'all to help us and to let us know what you don't like. It's easy to say what you like, but what you don't like, that's what I want to hear, so that we can change to be better, to be what the community wants. That's it.
All right. I also think and I know Walt, you've had some conversations too, visiting some of the gardens in this community, and there's some amazing gardens and food being produced in this community. How do we make those connections between pantries, McLean's? How could we grow things here that could better connect with the stores that are really have been here and will continue to be here?
Daddy here too. Daddy here too.
I know she does. Where is she?
She's in the hallway.
She's in the hallway? Yeah, so I know she's got big ideas about what she'd like to do in this neighborhood too. So I think there's opportunities for advocacy, and I also think there's opportunities to do things now that could really be powerful and really speak to, I think, all of the amazing gifts and talents and influence that's in this room right now. We can do amazing things together. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Morgan.
Yeah.
So, let me say how I came into the space, because I came by way of invitation from supporting the work of others like Walt, Dawn, Gwen, Dolores, who are passionate about change in the central community. Miss Worley, who leads and stands firm in what her beliefs and visions are. Miss Norris, who supports early learners in the community and supporting people becoming better versions of themselves, right? So I support individuals who support other individuals in the community. So I came by way of invitation, right? And thank you for the invitation. And now that we're here, we're in a space together, it is my intention to always bring in Demetrius, who leads changes in students' lives, but who truly feels passionate about environmental health and wellness, right? So many individuals in this space are leading change in ways that they wish to see change happen, whether it be financial well-being for individuals or community members or family, right? Whether it be personal well-being, whether it be emotional well-being, or whether it be the health of our community as a whole. So by working with leaders in the community and supporting that bridge that happens between institution and then community, where the action happens, right? Institutions that exist but impact conversation, household interactions, family interactions. And so I serve as that friendly bypass, that communicator, that friend that says, come on, y'all might hear me say this all the time, like, let's hold hands, like let's think about it. Let's think about what we both have to bring to the table. So I serve in support of those individuals leading the change, and then I serve in support of those individuals who want to support the change. Who have the money, right? Who has the resources? How are we gaining access to resources? How are we not asking for space at the table, but say, no, come join our table, right? Or let me tell you about a table you need to be at, because the opportunity is happening with or without us, but we want to go and support, because this is where the impact is going to be long-term by generations. So I share that to say that Health Campus, right? How many of us have heard of Health Campus? Right? So individuals who I see raise their hand are people who I've been in conversation with about Health Campus. So let me tell you about Health Campus. Health Campus is a vision of change to impact wellness in all aspects that you could think of as an individual. So you think about your personal wellness, you think about your family wellness, you think about your community wellness, and then you think about how does this impact me overall? How does this help? What are we talking about here, right? So when you go to your medical appointment, right, you want to go to see a doctor who knows you, who you don't have to feel fearful and sharing information with, who you might not have to keep repeating like, no, that's not my name. It's Rashawn. It's not Richard. You know, I was here last week. You know, this is our plan. You don't want to have to keep repeating yourself or saying like, I matter. I'm in pain. I don't feel well, right? You want a doctor that knows you. Or you may say, you know what, I don't want to take that prescription. I think I want to do meditation to see what I can do about my anxiety. Can you write a script for that? Or can you tell me where a class is for that? You know, I think I want to try changing my diet first before you put me on those blood pressure pills, because I think I can manage that. Can you offer me some support in that? So when we think about Health Campus, we are envisioning what changes can be made to support our individual growth and our personal wellness in different aspects, thinking outside of the box of health and wellness. So they may say going upstream instead of going down at the bottom catching a fish that's like, oh, this fish just fell through the ringer. Now I gotta eat a fish whose eyes falling apart. I gotta eat a fish whose head is not decapitated because they done came down the whitewash and the river stock, and I just gotta catch the fish at the bottom and that's all I have to eat. No, we go upstream. We say, okay, I know that the best salmon is at the top of the mountain. So I need to go up top of the mountain and get the best salmon and feed my family. So going upstream to say, let's take preventative measures to our wellness as a community. Let's go upstream and say, let me think about how can we prevent high blood pressure? How can we prevent diabetes? How can we support families who are already together versus doing family reunification? So Health Campus is looking at that as a bigger scheme, and there are areas of focus that they're specifically looking at it in. Food is one, right? Behavioral health, we think about how we feel, right? How we think, how we feel, how we make decisions. Family, and then education. Those are 4 components of our life that interface with us on a deep level, no matter what age or generation you in. Those are 4 components that impact us on a very different level. So for the purpose of this evening, when we're talking about food access, food sovereignty, Health Campus offers an opportunity, and Health Campus thinking about it as a concept, like this idea of Health Campus being a theory, right? Something that we talk about. But in the physical space, think of Health Campus as seeing St. Vincent, right? The medical center, the center that I just drove by coming to the meeting, where now the Christmas tree is up, right? To bring some vibrancy. But it's a space that now is available, and it has opportunity. I keep hearing, Morgan, you talk about opportunity. The opportunity is that there is space for, and I'm gonna say us, can I say us? We right? For us to create what we want, right? Some of us went on a tour to Start Fresh, where there was an opportunity, where we saw people take opportunity and made it into something that was their own, a grocery store that provided the resources that they needed or wanted in their community at the prices that were reasonable, and they weren't getting price gouged or cheated out of their money, right? They had opportunities for other entrepreneurs or people who were budding entrepreneurs, whether they were chefs or meal prepping, a space to say, hey, come here and make this your home and start what you want to, incubate what you need. Let us be your incubator to help you and support you throughout your journey of success. Health Campus offers that. We just went on a tour at St. Vincent, and what we saw was space and opportunity. And now what happens is with that space and opportunity is that the power is in our control. We get to say how we want to utilize this space and opportunity. But what happens with that is there's timelines. right? There's deadlines, but we have the control to say, this is what we wanna see. If you want to see, okay, we wanna help Danielle and Tasteify. Tasteify needs a bigger space to use once a week to do their meal prepping. We could say, we wanna help Danielle get into the bottom of that St. Vincent and utilize that space. Or we wanna say, Danny wants to start, mushroom growing, right? Because we talked about mushrooms. And she needs a space to do that at low cost. How can this help campus offer a space for Danny and others who want space and opportunity to be in this space? So now is the time where we get to decide what's there and for whom, how is it gonna benefit us? Or what do we need to benefit us that needs to be there, that we need to advocate for to be in that space? So I am along for the visioning, and not just for the visioning, but for the implementation too, because we know after there comes a thought and insight, once those thought and insights hit the wind, it has to come back manifested. So I am here to be a support along that journey to helping the wisdom of the room, the resources of the room, the visions of the room come forth by way of healthcare. So I know we're talking about food sovereignty and things like that today. I do have information, and I'll make it available if you want to share too, but the resources that are still happening at St. Vincent Charity, because there's still medical services there for individuals who need to get services and support. So I do have this information available, and if you know that there's a group that you work with that needs that information, please let me know, and I can get you all this information in your hands to share with your other networks, or come out and talk to people directly about it. So that's here too.
So, it sounds good, right, on paper.
Right.
Bert and Bell. Kim read it. She's not a part of Bert and Bella Car, but she read it. And out of respect to Freddie, who's from Bert and Bella Car tonight, but it sounds good on paper. Like when you're a resident and you live in that actual community and you seeing your neighbors walk 20, 30 minutes with groceries in the rain and in the snow, it hurt. You know what I'm saying? We ain't had a grocery store in 3 years, and then you sit up here and tell us that you don't want it because y'all don't agree to different terms. Well, we hungry. We don't have access to nothing. We starving. We don't have access to anything, and then you sit up here negotiating about something with residents who don't have a part of the decision making, right? And then majority of them who work inside of Burton Building Car are not residents of Central. So you never see what goes on inside of Central. And we actually had a meeting with the Save-A-Lot owners, which they're new privatized owners. And they took us to Clark Foods, and they took us to Broadway. And it was amazing stores, to be honest. It was an extended fresh produce section. Me and Richard, we was there, and it looked nice. But he told us that the only reason why they didn't do the deal was because Burton Building Car didn't. He said $500,000. They didn't want to get a $500,000, but the Glenville project was $9 million. So $500,000 was pennies to that $9 million. So I don't have no respect and no love for Burton Building Car at this point, because I see my neighbors starving. I see my neighbors walk to the grocery store. I see, and then they cut our bus line. Hold on, they cut our bus line. Like, it's not cool, and they not here, but Freddie's here, so like I said, out of respect to you, Freddie, I appreciate you for showing up. But Joy and whatever her name is, Bianca, they not here, and that's not cool, and I won't accept it. And I'm not cool with CDCs like Burton Building Car, because they never show when it's time to show. You know what I'm saying? Like, Sharita's not here, and I'm just not feeling it. Like, I want you to catch all that on camera, because I'm real serious, and I'm passionate about it, and I'm upset because they should be here. You know what I'm saying? So.
I want to ask about the, where is the transparency? If they've been in no negotiation, see, this is what I'm tired of. This is really what I'm tired of. They know who we are as change agents. Why are they sitting at the table and we ain't present?
Exactly.
Before that conversation even went down, we should have been at the table. We're at the table working now with SERS, with the county. We tired of that. We're gonna engage the residents. I mean, what does that mean? What does that mean? we're gonna talk with, we're gonna involve the residents. What does that mean to them? Don't make it another opportunity corridor where you sit the elephant in the room and ask us, do we like it? Hell no, we don't like it. But what can we do about it? After you done put it down, that's what I'm talking, where's the transparency? They gotta be called accountable for it. They gotta be, because they're supposed to be representing us. Burnville Car is supposed to be a thing for the residents, and I know they got their little thing in there that they need to, as a non-profit and stuff that they do. But either you're gonna represent me or get off the pot.
And that's the thing, we study wanting them to represent us, and what we should be doing is representing ourselves. We study waiting for money from them. What we really should be doing is getting together and putting together our own resources. That's the huge thing, and I think it starts with the youth and with our education, because from the start, we was never educated on how to build wealth and health and spirituality within ourselves. I seriously sat down and wrote this same thing, literally, from start to finish on where it starts. It starts with the youth, it starts with history, on us knowing who we are, where we came from, and the power that we possess before we let our control go. That's what it's really about, and I'm telling y'all, my voice is shaking because I'm so passionate about this, and it's scary that so many people in our community is like, we talking about it, but we ain't doing nothing. On this scale, we down here. We give them so much control over our education, over our history, over everything. The thing is, we don't have no power. And when we don't have no power, we ain't got no control. We need to change our mindset. That's the first thing we need to do. And what I did, I'm telling y'all, it's work. We ain't got to look no further. Stop looking for them to support us because they're not doing it. They know the power we possess. They know when we get together that we got it on lock. We got to change our mindset. And what I did, they got control of the music. I'm telling y'all, y'all got to, this what y'all got to do. This what we got to do, y'all. We got to totally tap out. Get back to our roots and tap back into reality, y'all. Y'all got to tap out. We got to stop this music. We got to stop watching this TV. If y'all ain't got no business on social media, uninstall the app, period. Get back to y'all roots. Pay attention to y'all family. Pay attention to what y'all kids watching. Pay attention to what y'all eat and what y'all feed y'all family. I'm telling y'all, we got all the control in the world. The black people is, we spend so much money. We got it, y'all. We got this.
We gotta address these issues.
We gotta address
Sometimes
it,
we don't
and we
even know
gotta
about the
quit
structure,
talking.
right?
We gotta stop talking.
So we gotta address these issues.
We gotta address
Just
them,
like at
and
this
we gotta
point-
take action. Stop talking,
It's
y'all.
just
I'm
like-
tired of talking.
It's just like at this point
One
where,
second,
hold
one
on.
second.
So it's just like, hold on. So it's just like at this point, right, where we focused on this grocery store. Well, really not focused on the grocery store, but they was trying to push it $107 million police headquarters inside of our community. $107 million. When they closed down majority of our hospital, they closed down our high school. We got one high school. They closed down our grocery store, and they tried to push $107 million police headquarters inside of our community when we already surrounded by 8 prison-based facilities. Like this shit is like, we gotta point out the structure first. In order to create a solution, we gotta make the people know the problem, because majority of us don't even know where this shit coming from.
We don't.
So that's what these meetings be about, is pointing out the problem so we can create solutions. And then we can go exactly to what you're talking about, because that's the move. But if our people don't even know how to fight, then
And that start with history. We gotta go back to our history.
A plan, and I'm gonna get on the high horse. I'm big on strategy and planning and execution. I ain't about just having meetings for meetings and talking, but you gotta have a plan and a strategy. So you go to that person, say, we got this power, we wanna work with you, this is what we want. And then it could be a yes, like people don't know today, present and ask. Just get collective, have a collective mind about what y'all want and go to the door. So, I think it's
Mr.
just
Samad.
So sorry.
Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, I don't all right, Miss Moore.
Oh.
Yeah, gee. So so sorry, I was in a meeting. So sorry for being late, and I'm trying to just pick. Yeah. Well, I don't know. My mommy raised me to say I'm sorry. I can't get it out of my mouth. But no, I'm just been listening in, so I'm trying to actually figure out where to jump in at, to be honest. I just moved back recently to East Cleveland. I'm originally from East Cleveland, so my framing is not a Cleveland framing. It's East Cleveland framing, but that doesn't mean that East Cleveland doesn't have the exact same realities that's happening in Cleveland and vice versa. And you talk about East New York realities, you talk about East St. Louis. But an inner ring suburb is different than being underneath so much influence in Cleveland, because you got a lot of stuff to navigate. You got a lot of interested parties in this community, like Walt said. Like, you got people who are going to put forward whatever it is that they want to do in the community. And so I can just say that I moved here from Boston, because I was in Boston for 12 years, and we had to use a lot of different strategies. Some was bully tactics, to be frank, and some were strategic. Some were just like, the only reason that we don't have what we deserve is because you don't want to give us the money. The resources are there, you just don't want to invest in us. And so to be able to talk about, and in a frank way, talking about the resources and the talent that's in our communities, we're never really going to be able to get what we deserve until we actually take it. And so I think that there is a strategic way of moving, but there's also these opportunities to say, as the same way the opportunities were there for us during COVID, those exact same opportunities exist right now. And they put it into a context of, this is an emergency, this is kind of what's needed in this moment, but we've always been in this perpetual cycle of oppressed realities in our communities, and it was not just this small blip of need. It has always been part of it. So what we did is, to the point around during COVID, we demanded to the CDC that we own the property, and they didn't want to give it to us. But they had already made promises to the community that we love the community, and everything you say you want to do is going to be for you. And we threatened to actually go public with some of the things that they had promised to the community. This was in Nubian Square. And so what happened is they ended up having to meet our demands of owning the space in order to do what we wanted to do in the space. We said we want to do a grocery store, but a grocery store is what's needed, but it might not work because the system around us may not guarantee that the financials are going to work. But if it closes down, that doesn't mean that we don't have control of the space. So it's really not the concept that matters. It's about ownership of assets in your community that matters way more than the concept that gets hatched out of it. Because, and it goes to what was talked about before, is once you start to own the food that's in your backyard, the grocery store becomes second. So the asset, what can happen if, say, worst case scenario, the grocery store that we're doing in Boston closes down, we turn it into a hub. We turn it into an education, we turn it into a school, but it's owned by us to serve the needs of the community perpetually. It doesn't have to be a grocery store, because that's what the CDCs and all these other people are doing. They're making plans for us based upon the assets that they have in our communities. And so until we own as much property in our communities collectively, we're not going to be able to have a sovereign reality that we keep saying we want. So to me, it's what are the assets that we need to own, and what are the assets that these institutions are willing to give us or transfer over to the community, not just in services. Because you've got this happening at the same backdrop of free food coming in our communities. So there's a lot of food pantries that they're always going to exist, but how do you create a paying market, when free food, when your competitor is free food? Well, you open a grocery store and it's a pantry next door, how are you going to be a business, right? You're competing against yourself. You're cannibalizing the effort of actually having something that's entrepreneurial. So that's a challenge, because the system of food is built to play into the people who actually hold the food, which is all government subsidized food that comes into our community, which is what the apartheid, which we're talking about. And so until we look at the fact that the Greater Cleveland Food Bank is part of Feeding America, that is almost a $3 billion entity, that is, its sole job is to give free food to communities. how are you gonna make a model, a grocery store in our community that can actually work? I don't know. These are the questions that we have to ask when you look at the structures that exist. It's not just redlining, it's like all these other systems that are in our community. So, and then when we talk about, I'm just sorry going all over the place, I'm just thinking about a lot of different things. Like when we talked about resources, I don't like, I think we have enough resources in our community. I don't think we need nonprofits. I think nonprofits serve a purpose, but they should have a sunset. Every single nonprofit should figure out how they can no longer exist. If a nonprofit can remain staying in our communities, that means that we're always going to be attached to the resources that they bring in. So, so until we actually own as many pieces, we're always going to be underneath that. So that's just my framing. We went out to the community and said, we're going to offer everybody 9% on their investment. And people said, okay, that sounds like a good deal, but we said we're going to pay you back in food. And we're going to amortize it over 3 years. And we're going to raise the money. We raised $200,000. And it was a scale of $500, $1,000, and $1,500 per investor who came into it. We paid them back over 3 years in food. And so what that meant is you had complete community buy-in into what we were doing, into the food operation that we're doing. So the numbers, and these are small investments because people were investing in themselves because they really believed in it, and they also needed healthier foods in their community. So there are mechanisms that we can deploy. It's just, is the energy there to create it? And there's a lot of different models that we could discuss. And like you said, I can't remember your name. Like the fact that, the fact that we're here is it. There's no bait coming in here. This is just people in here trying to figure stuff out. So I'm just happy to try and like figure out what I can do to kind of like help out as I'm doing what I'm doing in East Cleveland. We said, so when we first came back, I'm like, thank you for making this property so cheap. Because now we can buy it up. Our community's buying it up the best that we can. The fact that there's plots next door to our homes for $100 and we're not buying it up, that means that we don't see value in our property, in our land. I mean, it makes no sense that we're not buying plots next door. I mean, so everybody in here, if there's a vacant lot, get it, because land is one of the best resources that you can get. And it's not valued at $100. That's the value that they tell you that it's worth it. So somebody come in and block bust and buy a whole bunch of it for cheap, and then build up the communities for them in the future.
I think some people don't even know that.
Exactly, and that.
Knowledge is everything, and some people just don't have that knowledge.
Exactly.
You know, if
Yep.
you put these things in their face, then they start thinking about it.
They start
Like,
thinking
yeah,
about it.
This is interesting.
Yes.
Why don't me and my cousin, my sister come together and buy this land?
Yes. Exactly.
That's not what was put in front of us from child, like I was saying, from the start. That's not what was put in front of us. What was put in place for us is what they wanted us to have, and we never had the access to even learn that or even have that beat in our face like they did everything else with these silly.
To making the change, are you ready to stand on the front line and die for it?
Yes.
Are you ready to call them in and out? If you look on 22nd Street where Cedar is down there, we did a project called Bridges That Bridge. We call racism out. That's what we have to do. All this talking that we've done in the room, we already know what the problem is. Are we, as a people, ready to lay down our egos and stick together? That's the problem. We know they done divided us. We know that. I ain't talking about the neighbors and all of those who have not woke up yet. But all of you in here are woke. You know what the deal is. We can't, the Serenity Prayer says, God grant me the serenity to change the things I cannot change. What can't we change? Our past. What the white folks done did, bringing us to America. But what can they give us the courage to change the things that we can. What can we change?
Our mind.
Our own self. Our own self. If you see paper on the street and you don't like litter, pick it up. We don't like what's happening in our neighborhoods. A group of us got together, went to the county and said, y'all can't bring no surge program down here without us being at the table. And we've been there for, well, how long? Over a year, couple of years ago. But we're now going into the second phase, making all those, you to put all this money down here, making those people you gave the money to, making them accountable. We got to hold people accountable. We got to get up off our, get up off our asses and politics. I ain't saying be a politician. I'm saying politics. You got to, somebody said being involved and stuff, you got to play the game.
It goes to that department first. When it goes there and you do a program with if we go to Richard, Councilperson Starr, we want something. He had to go to policy procedures analyst. It goes to that department. John James is huge. You put it in front of him. You write it all up. Then it goes to law. When it goes to
law.
It goes to law.
And it stopped.
It did law look at it. She knows it. It goes to law. If law sees something is not put together, it gets pushed back to analysts.
Oh, this guy.
And then they call you to find out what's going on. Then they have you set it up. It goes back to law. When it hit law and law approves it, it hit the table for discussion.
Oh, I thought that's when I get it. So
It goes from one step to the next step to get what you want. And you have to have the 17 council. You have to have at least 9 to 10 council to approve, to agree what you want. You can put it to the table and sound good and make it right, and it can be beautiful.
And that's for each thing that I want?
Each thing you want. And when you hit that, if they approve it, then it goes to ordinance. Then it goes to legislation. It got steps to go through. And if it don't make it to, and then it goes to finance. Then it goes to budget. It's steps for all these programs we want. And yes, we can do this ourselves. We can, because we intelligent here. We spiritual intelligent. But you got to learn the politics. I don't care what we say, where we came from, how we supposed to know what we supposed to know. We got to know our history. But you got to learn the politics because it's government money. But my spirit took me to a point to handle it. So what I did was went back to school to elevate my intelligence to understand where I was at. I'm in school, I'm educating myself to a level where I need to be at to understand what I need to do for my community because I am a resident of this community. But I'm keep bringing that gift back. So I'm going to bring, so I'm saying to all of us here, when you get a chance to go down to council, on Monday nights at 7 o'clock, it's open to the public. Go down to council, Monday night at 7 o'clock, go in there and sit in there and listen to the whole council talk. Pay attention to what they say. They have open mic at 7 o'clock. It runs from 7 to 7:20. But you have to report to council and say you want to speak, but you have to file a form to do before they say you can. Going to council is free. I was going for the last 5 years, but when I got connected to precinct, I go to council every Monday at 7 o'clock and sit down and listen to people talk. And you hear what's going on. When you do that, you can do public speaking. I went to public speaking for CPP for our light bills for Sky High. I walk in on public council and I speak at the mic when something's wrong with our community. But you have to learn to hear what they're saying to understand what you want to do and where you want to take it at. This ain't no game here. You want the money? Oh, hell yeah, it's there. I mean, money is there for us. But you have to learn the politics to go get it, to understand why you get it. So, Councilperson Richard Starr, he can get on there, sit in that audience, and when you're there, he can look back and see you. He can invite you in. Tell him to invite you in on every public meeting that is to understand economic development, to understand the business part of it, to understand every role they play. And once you get to politics, hell yeah, we in.